I want to get tactical today with D&D.
Let's discuss the shoving action in D&D.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
I'm Nerdarchy Steve. Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds.
Now let's shove our way into this video.
Alright, so the shove action is a special maneuver you can use instead of taking an attack when you use your attack action. And in this video, we kind of want to dive into why this can actually be better than taking your attack action and the benefits of it. One of the things that you do with shove is knock people prone, and that's going to be a great asset. There's also character class features that do it as well. And in some ways, the actual shove action is way better than the features that you can do. And it's even easier to do the shove action than it is to make an attack roll in many instances. We are going to get into the specifics of that right after we take a moment to keep the lights on and thank our sponsor, Dungeon Fog. It is amazing software for making maps. I use it in my own games. We even take those maps that I use in my games and throw them up on our Patreon for the patrons if they want to use them or look at them or whatever. But it makes map making so much easier. It's so intuitive. It feels like being a kid again, drawing on graph paper, except for my maps never look so good. And the best part yet is you can sign up for a free account. Check it out, see if it's something that you would find useful and want to use in your games before you even spend a single dime. We'll have a link down in the description for you.
So if you take those maps and you put in some cool things that, the creatures can be shoved into or on top of or get stuck in, it's really useful. So let's see exactly what the shoving rules are. Using the attack action, you can make a special melee attack to shove a creature, either to knock it prone or to push it away from you. If you're able to make multiple attacks with the attack action, this attack replaces one of them. The target must be no more than one size larger than you and must be within your reach. Instead of making an attack roll, you make a strength athletics check contested by the target's strength athletics or dexterity acrobatics check. The target chooses the ability to use. You succeed automatically if the target is incapacitated. If you succeed, you either knock the target prone or push it 5 feet away from you.
Now, the reason why this is so great, as a player, more than likely you have the advantage because you're going to be using athletics, and if you're doing this often, I would think you're probably proficient in it, right? Mm-hmm. So you get to add your proficiency bonus to it as well as your stat modifier. Well, okay, this isn't actually any better than making attack. Here's where it gets better. It's an opposed roll by your opponent. So, their static armor class, there's a good chance may actually be higher than what their modifiers would be. So that kind of puts you in an advantageous situation, but there's also ways to get even better at using this kind of stuff.
Oh.
For the most part, what we're looking to do is knock our opponents prone. While sometimes it can be advantageous to move them around. If you knock them prone and you have more attacks, well, those attacks are now at advantage. If your allies haven't attacked yet and they're still prone, their attacks are advantage as well. So everyone is going to be better off at hitting. Now, there are certain abilities in the game that are going to allow you to knock creatures prone. But in each one of these cases, it's a saving throw. And many times you'll have monsters that have a good saving throw. So it's easier for them to overcome that than it is the opposed roll.
Yeah, I think a lot of monsters, they don't really have proficiency in skills. So regardless of whether it's got a good stat modifier, without the proficiency in the skill, they're going to be much worse off. A strength save is able to be done by a lot of monsters, whereas the athletics might not be so. So being able to knock it on its arse and be able to then pound on it. Yeah, your dexterity-based archer in the back, he's going to be grumbling and complaining at you. But, your allies that are sitting there pounding it on melee, they're going to love you.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the specifics of that momentarily.
If you'd like this video and you'd like to help us do more like it, why not come over to Patreon and support us over there?
As a thank you, every month we're going to put out special rewards for our patrons where sometimes we are going to make subclasses, races, magic items, feats, drop-in encounters, monsters, you name it, it's over there. We're even turning Nerdarchy Live chats into audio version, so it's a podcast, commercial free, that our patrons can check out. So you can take a look at that link in the description.
So looking into specific classes, there's a number of things that are going to allow you to fall into this role of being a shover and be getting better at it. So with the bard, getting expertise in athletics is going to be able to help you out. And then there's a number of spells which we'll cover later that are going to be incredibly helpful in this particular avenue.
Also, bards can hand out inspiration, also making your shover more effective as well. So already there's a couple things that make it easier for a player to shove monsters around than maybe necessarily hit them. You're also going to have, after the bard, we have the barbarian, which gets rage, and when you're raging, you have advantage on strength and athletics checks, so you're going to be better at shoving people.
So if we look into fighter, the battle master subclass, there's a number of techniques that they can be able to use, as well as the fighting styles. Superior technique and unarmed fighting are going to be very useful for getting in those attacks.
Yeah, Battle Master gets the trip maneuver, superior technique fighting style. It gives that you have access to maneuvers. You could then take the trip maneuver. Again, I still think the shove action is kind of better, and there's better ways of doing it. The unarmed strike is interesting, and when we talk about advanced techniques when it comes to shoving, that one will definitely come into play. Monk, also like the Battle Master, if you go way of the open hand, when you use your flurry of blows, you can, you as a part of the attack, knock someone prone. I will say also with the Battle Master and their trip maneuver, one of the extra added benefits is you don't actually give up the attack. It's in addition to, so you can weigh the pros and cons between, having, the ability to knock someone prone as part of your attack, or having a better chance of actually getting them prone, with the shove action.
So looking at the rogue is another class that gets expertise, and here you could be, a melee-based rogue. You could have expertise in athletics and acrobatics, be super physical, and you can be able to knock people down and not get knocked down at the same time.
So next up, we have a handful of feats that are going to be super useful to our shoving character.
So looking at the feats, we have 4 feats that are going to come into play with this particular tactic. Grappler is going to come into that, advanced techniques that we'll get into. And then Shield Expert being able to shove as a bonus action, incredibly helpful.
The next up, we have Skill Expert, which is going to be awesome because we can actually just take the athletic skill, and then we can take expertise in it. In addition to that, we also have Tavern Brawler. Again, when we get into advanced tactics, we're going to discuss why that's going to be super helpful.
All right, so we've got spells, and there's only 2 that are really going to come up, and they're both pretty low level. So we're looking at Enhance Ability and Enlarge Reduce. And I will say both sides, because if you can kind of combine the things, it can be pretty helpful for you. So Enhance Ability is one of my, favorite overlooked spells in a lot of cases because, number one, it can cover a lot of different area. But for this particular video, we're talking about being able to get advantage on strength athletics checks.
Yeah, and both of them are going to do that. In this case, Enlarge might have the slight advantage in the sense that, one, you can do bonus damage, but also your ability to shove creatures is based on size. So being bigger means you can push around bigger creatures.
Absolutely. And, as I mentioned, both aspects work. So if you've got a pairing where one person casts Enlarge Reduce on you, and then the other person casts Reduce on them, you get bigger, they get smaller. It's a win-win situation.
Now you can wrestle the dragon. So we keep mentioning these advanced tactics, right? Advanced shoving. Now we're going to get into it. Several of the things that we mentioned, the reason why we included them, they don't actually make you better at the initial shoving. But what they do is they generally all make you better at grappling. If you can then, when you shove someone and knock them prone, if you then grapple them, their movement is now 0. They have to break the grapple before they can even get up. In the instance of the unarmed strike fighting technique, well, when you grapple someone, you just do extra damage to them. So obviously that's going to be super useful. When we talk about some of the feats like Grappler, it just makes you better at grappling. So that's going to make it easier for you to then get them. And also with the Grappler feat, if you pin them after you grapple them, then restrained, they're going to have even more penalties against them. That's even better. With Tavern Brawler, if you make an unarmed strike or use an improvised weapon, then you can make a bonus action grapple. So, I mean, you're just changing up the order a little bit. You grapple them first, then you push them down. And once they're down, you just kind of hold them there. And, you know, you can continue doing damage to them. The rest of the party can whack on them. Or maybe you want to subdue them. You don't even want to actually kill them. But it's just, you know, it just gives you more tactics and techniques that you can use.
There is a reason why in mixed martial arts the term ground and pound is a thing. And, you know, while I am not a super fan, I've definitely seen enough matches where somebody just, you know, picks up, slams their opponent to the mat, and then just begins to pummel them. It's pretty darn effective, and I'm actually shocked that I don't see more of this kind of thing happen in, you know, a D&D game. Why are there not all melee parties that this is the focus? We just put somebody on the ground and keep them there and just beat them into submission.
If it's really effective with one person bringing someone to the grounding and ground to pound them, it is even more effective when it's 5 of you doing it. And also, I have played grapplers that do this, but there's certain instances like, oh, you're fighting in waist-high water, you know, or near water, and, you know, instead of just shoving them to the ground, you're shoving them to the ground and drowning them now. So, like, your terrain, you can also use some control effects with your terrain and come up with things like that in order to make the combat more interesting and make your party more effective.
So a lot of things out there, a lot of stuff to unpack and discuss. So the question is up to you as to, you know, why is this not being done in the games as often?
Yeah, let us know. Tell us your stories of your ground and pound moments in your games down in the comments below.
While you're down there, don't forget to do all those things that make YouTube and Nerdarchy happy. Like, share, subscribe, even go ahead and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
And as a quick reminder, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, we drop new videos, so come back over to the channel and see what's new. Hey, you can't wait until then. Click up here, check out the glorious Grung Grappler character build.
So until next time, stay nerdy.